So with that said, please help me welcome Chris Felton.
Okay. Summer, is that some?
Yeah.
Some, my
You
lord,
still remember me.
my lord,
Thank you.
some win.
Why?
Yeah, man, wow, I'm speechless. Anyway, good to see you, brother. Great having you guys.
Yeah.
We haven't done this in 18 months. This is crazy. This is one of my most favorite things to do is talk about our mission to crowds. And we've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these, and this is how we built our business. And so welcome, great to have you guys. And what we're going to talk about today is the fact in the United States, we have a major problem. It's a crisis. We call it a wealth crisis. And it's the fact that people don't understand how money works. They're mainly financially illiterate. It causes major problems in their homes. And until now, we haven't had a solution to that problem, whether that be through our school systems, our industry, even our own homes with our own parents who knew nothing like my parents. And so we at WealthWave have found a solution. And so what we're going to talk about today is the problem, our solution to it, and then potentially what is your role in helping us advance this huge mission of stamping out and eradicating financial illiteracy in the United States. And so you might be here for different reasons. First and foremost, you might be a current client like Liz. Welcome, sister. Love you. We appreciate the Liz's of the world and the clients that are online right now. This is our new world 50-50 live and virtual, which I'm excited about. But without the Liz's of the world and the great clients that we have, we don't have a business. We're not here. So we're super grateful for you all. You might be here like I was many years ago, totally frustrated with your career. Anybody ever been frustrated with their career? Frustrated with corporate America? Having lack of time, lack of control, lack of financial upside. You want to have more control over your life. You want to make a bigger impact. You want to help your family more. You're here like I was several decades ago looking at us from a career change. You might be a potential client and you're here wanting to level up your financial literacy, get a better understanding of how we operate. You might be here because you love what you do, but the pandemic taught you that you can stand to make and save more money. And you're looking at us from a, what I call multiple stream of income side business opportunity. And so we welcome you. You might be here, we call you center of influence. You're happy with your career, you're happy monetarily, you're not really super interested in what we offer, but whoever invited you has a high opinion of you. And their goal for you is to hear our message, love us, and become what we call raving fan. You know what a raving fan is? When you hear a great restaurant or you hear a great movie, you want to tell everybody about it. We want you to feel that way about us. And I built the majority of my business from introductions of people who weren't necessarily interested, but they sat through this. And they love the message. And they're like, everybody needs to know about us. And so you're super important. So my background, I grew up in Loveland, Colorado. You guys know where that is, 60 miles north of here. And great parents. They did the best they could. But guess what? They were financially illiterate. They didn't know how money worked. They argued over money. They fought over money. They stressed over money. They divorced over money. 60% of divorces are tied back to financial stress, which is why my wife and I wrote our book called Couples Money. The 5 leading killers in the United States today are all stress-related illnesses. And so my mom passed away at 64, saved a grand total of $10,000 over the course of her life, worked her entire life. Colon cancer is what they said was the reason, but I believe it was stress around money. Because from the time she was 5 until she was 64, always worried about how to pay her bills. How am I going to make it work? My dad made it all the way to 88, miraculously had every stress-induced illness you can think of. And he passed away broke with $75,000 of debt. And so where did I take my money cues? My parents. And what did my parents tell me? Go to school, get good grades, get a good job, good benefits, don't rock the boat, don't take risks. And when you're 65, it's going to turn out okay. Who got that? Anybody heard that growing up? How's that formula working? It's not. In fact, 96% of Americans retire on less than $14,000 a year of income. We live in the richest country on the planet. 96% of Americans retire broke. But I said, okay, went to Colorado State University, got an accounting degree. I moved down to Denver in 1993, go Rams. And our football team's not good again. Anyway, moved down to Denver in 1993 and went to work for a largest accounting firm in the world at that time called Arthur Andersen. who got in trouble with Enron and kind of imploded, which was not my fault, just fair disclosure. And no, I was gone. But I, got a great job, was doing what everyone else was doing, climbing the corporate ladder, trading time for money, working 70, 80, 90 hours a week, because that's what everybody was doing. And I looked to the partner that was 10 years ahead of me, and I didn't want any part of their life whatsoever. And my turning point there was we had an extremely difficult client, and we had a major deadline that fell the Monday after Easter Sunday. And so Easter in my household to my mom was the holiday. And I was supervising 8 people. And when I disclosed to my mom that it was looking like I was gonna have to work Easter Sunday, she gave me that look that only a mom could give. Like, you better figure that out. There's gonna be a smoking crater where you once stood, right? Figure this thing out. And so I did, which meant no sleep and a ton of coffee. And so I worked 120 hours in a 6-day period. We got the job done. I came home. My brother and I shared a house together. I got in about 11 o'clock at night. My brother was waiting up for me, and he didn't know what happened to me. He didn't know if I was a drug dealer now. He didn't know if I got kidnapped. He didn't know. So if you're that exhausted, what do you want to do? Sleep. He wanted to talk, and he wanted to ask me questions. When you're tired, how open are you to questioning? And this is the closest I've ever had to a family intervention I've ever had in my life. And so he was like, why are you doing what you're doing? And is this what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life? And I got super defensive. We got in an argument. And the gift my brother gave me was he woke me up out of this hypnotic state I was in, this hypnotic trance that we humans are in. And studies show that 91% of our thoughts today are the same as they were yesterday. And the real secret in life is if we want to change our life, we have to change our thought processes. But we often just kind of go through this hypnotic, unconscious trance of just doing the same things over and over again, expecting a different result. Has anybody ever lived that way? And so sometimes pandemics come, horrific stuff, but the blessing that came out of that is it got people to stop and think. Because normally that's the last thing we want to do is actually sit down and do the hard work and think. Because we'll go get opinions from the most ridiculous people other than just sit down and figure it out on our own. So he kind of woke me up on that. And so the next day was a watershed moment for me. I grabbed a pad of paper and I grabbed a book called Think and Grow Rich. Notice the order there. Think and Grow Rich. And what that book is Napoleon Hill wrote that in the early 20s. And he was 20 years of age. He came across Andrew Carnegie. And he was set to interview Carnegie for 3 hours, but the interview lasted 3 days. And the question that Carnegie gave him was, or the question that Napoleon Hill asked Carnegie is, how'd you create your success? And so 3 hours ended up literally can you imagine asking basically the Jeff Bezos of our time at that time, how'd you create your success? So he had a stack of notes. At the end of the 3 days, Carnegie turned him to Napoleon Hill and said, hey, here's the deal. My intuition, very important to creating wealth in your life. My intuition is saying that we're onto something. My intuition is saying that people don't really understand the laws that create success in their life. So here's what you're going to do. Here's my question. What if we could find 500 of the most successful people on the planet? Edison, Ford, Alexander Graham Bell, Woolworth, Wrigley, Rockefeller, 8 presidents, 5 prime ministers. And what if you could follow them for the next several decades, which he ended up doing his entire life? And what if you could glean out of them the principles, the common denominators that created their success? And what if you could create a book, and if the average person followed it, whatever those principles are, they too could do what those people did. And that's exactly, if you get nothing out of my talk today, you go get the book, Think and Grow Rich. And if someone's like, I read it. Nope, it's one of those things you never stop reading because it's created more multimillionaires, more successful people than any book that's ever been created. 14 principles were gleaned from 500 of the most successful people of all time. So I'm reading and I'm blown away in a couple facets. Number one is I had never heard this stuff before. Colorado State didn't teach me. Corporations didn't teach me. I hadn't heard these concepts. I didn't understand it. And the second thing that blew me away about it was I thought they were all just greedy capitalists. I thought they were just chasing money, but man, I was so wrong. Like us, they're on a big mission. They're on a big mission to do something big, to make a big impact in society. And the bigger the problem they solved, the wealthier they got. They got wealthy as a result of helping people have a better life. So they were mission driven first. I was like, man, that's amazing. The last thing was they all had these things called dreams. You guys remember that? Dreams. I was like, dreams. I'm like, dreams for a CPA, like literally smoke shooting out of my ear. I'm like, whoa, wait. I remember having those. And then I sat there, I'm like, what happened to them? Well, as my mentor says, we often deal in what's called the tyranny of the urgent. Has anybody ever heard that term before? The tyranny of the urgent. We deal almost in urgency. Some of it's important, most of it's not. Social media and our phones and all this stuff that we're so involved in, we deal with the urgency now. And what happens to dreams? The next day, the next day, the next day. And then ultimately the dream atrophies. And we kind of settle in our lives and we forget about them. And 96% of America does that. And they settle. And so I sat there with a pad of paper, highly recommend you do it. Could be one of the greatest exercises of your life. And I said, hey, you know what? What do I really want my life to look like? What does my ideal life look like? And it was awesome. And it was about having time control, a lot of things that this company has blessed me with. And I got super excited about my ideal life. I got super excited about my dream. And then I got quickly depressed because I looked at corporate America. And I looked at what I was doing. And I said, there's no way that this is ever going to get me this. So I call it the moment of truth. And the moment of truth was I either need to let go of this and shrink it inside my current reality, which is what 96% do, or let's not have regrets and hold on to that. Let me go find the vehicle that's going to get me this. And this search was really frustrating because I knew I had to be a business owner. I had to be an entrepreneur. This was never going to happen being an employee. And so I looked at everything under the sun. 80% of small businesses fail in the first couple of years. It was a lot of capital, no coaching, no systems. It looked like I was just going to work harder, make less. And then here I am, a CPA. I didn't know how money worked. I was totally financially illiterate. And so I went and interviewed with some big financial services companies. And they're like, man, we'd love to have you. Make a list of everybody you know that has over $1 million of assets, and let's go talk to them. And I'm like, I grew up in Loveland, Colorado, right? Like, I don't know $1 million people. And I know my mom would meet with us. Well, how much has she got? 10 grand. They said, no way. I'm like, well, no way to that, no way to you. I didn't like the industry. And so I walked away, super frustrated. And then I got invited to an overview like this, me and 3 other guys. And 2 of the 3 are still my business partners today. I showed up skeptical because I found that people are skeptical about everything. Their mind's never open. So I showed up in that I'll find out what's wrong with it and go home. Not the greatest attitude, but that was me. And my business partner got up and he opened me up because he said 3 things. Number 1 is he said, we're on a mission. We're on a mission to stamp out and eradicate financial illiteracy. People do not know how money works. Schools don't teach it. Our industry doesn't want you to know. I said, whoa, mission. That tied that back to Think and Grow Rich. I'm like, oh, that could be my mission. That could be my purpose because I didn't have a purpose. My purpose was trading time for money. And my soul wasn't jacked up about that. I love our mission. I still love it today. Guys have been doing this 22 years. They're not doing this. They're not still excited about it. They're not passionate about it. I love our mission. I love what we stand for. Second thing he said is test drive this business. Give us 6 to 10 hours a week. Build this in the nooks and crannies of your life. No risk. Get licensed. You're going to learn more about how money works by getting licensed than you've ever probably learned about money. So little capital and see how it works. So low risk to be involved in one of the largest industries on the planet. So that was easy. The third thing he said is you build it right. You serve people. You build a business. You wake up on January 1st and your recurring revenue from your business is greater than your bills. And when that happens, you have a level of financial independence and financial freedom. I said, whoa, wait, stop. I liked all that other stuff. There was literally 45 seconds of explanation of that changed my entire life. Because what I was excited about is nobody ever in my life had shown me a path to financial freedom, ever. I'm like, got that. So I spent the first year part-time, building the nooks and crannies in my life, pretty busy guy as a CPA, working 70, 80, 90 hours a week. And then I went full-time in February 2000, and pretty cool with me and my partners have built combined 800 licensed agents, probably well in six figures of clients. And we're after it more than ever. Why? Because whatever we have, we want more people to have what we have. And that's what it's all about for us. And so you're here today because that intrigues you, or you're here today because you know someone that might intrigue. And so we are the How Money Works company. I love that. Two things that we do. Number one is we teach people how money works. And I love this line here. So we teach people how money works so they can break the cycle of financial literacy. What's important about that is everyone's like, Chris, you were a CPA, you were a financial advisor, or you were a CPA when you rolled in here. You know all this stuff. No, I didn't know all this stuff. I was totally financially illiterate. You want to talk about a cycle of poverty? Dad broke, mom broke, grandma broke, grandpa broke, great-grandma, great-grandpa. I mean, it was a cycle. And even though I had this career that looked like I knew what I was doing, it's a whole nother talk for a whole nother time, I would have perpetuated that cycle. It was this company that woke me up out of that. So forever grateful for that. Second thing we do is we teach people how to become an entrepreneur. We move people from small E to big E. Small E is employee, limited time control, limited financial upside, to being an entrepreneur where you have unlimited time control and unlimited financial upside. Now, why is that important? Because today, it's not optional. It's not optional. And if you understand this concept called the inflation wave that exists in the United States, and it just got gasoline poured on it the last 18 months, is real inflation is about 10% annual. The government doesn't tell you that. They tell you it's 2 to 3%. It's total hogwash. It's 10%. It's been that way for over 100 years. Real wage growth is 3%. If you're an employee, every day that you wake up, you are behind every year you wake up, you're behind the 8 ball 7%. You're losing the money game 7% per year. It's nuts. I sit down with my clients, I'm like, take your bills, add 50% to those in the next 5 years. Are your wages going to keep up with that? No. And my next question is, does that bother you? And if it doesn't, what am I going to talk about? We're an option. But what I've done the last several years is I coach, teach, train, and mentor people how to get their businesses launched. I think we're the route, but we're not the route for everybody. So if we're not the route for you, follow up with whoever invited you, have a coaching session, and let's brainstorm and think about how you can create more money and bring it into your life. Does that make sense? That is the biggest part of our mission. People have to become entrepreneurs. They got to become business owners. So those two things that we do. And so our mission, stamp out financial literacy so that families can dream again. There's that D word. And one thing I know, having lived a big chunk of my life in financial lack, it's tough to dream when you're barely paying your bills. And so my goal, my purpose is I want to help people free themselves mentally and financially so they can live an amazing life. And I had a mentor that really lit the fire in me to get financial independence on my radar. And she said, you'll never know how good you can be in your life until money's behind you. It's one of the greatest quotes, told me, looked me right in the eye, spoke right into my soul of meaning. You're never going to get where you can be. The amount of service, the amount of contribution you can make if your mind is wrapped up in how am I going to pay my bills. It's very limiting. I don't know if anyone's ever lived there. But it's better. One of the reasons you want to have freedom around money, or what I call peace of mind, is so that you can actually serve more people, right? And extend your service. And that's what's exciting about it. And so two things that stand in our way. One is lack of financial education. It's not taught in schools. Pre-pandemic, state of Colorado said, nope, we don't have the budget to teach financial literacy in schools. So who's going to teach it? Well, it's not the industry. Here's the way the industry rolls. The less you know, the more money they make. The less you know, the more money they make. They don't want you to know. Why do the 4% make and the other 96? By the way, 4%, 96%, the haves and the have-nots, it's been that way for well over 120 years. It hasn't changed. The industry is not looking out for you. In fact, Merrill Lynch sent out an email to their advisors several years ago, said, hey, advisors, this got leaked to the Wall Street Journal. If you're dealing with broke people, 250,000 or less of investable assets, we're not going to pay you on those clients anymore. They get an 800 number. I mean, literally puts them in the top 15% of investors in the United States today. Merrill's like, we don't care about them. We only want to talk to the wealthy people. Well, think about that person as a consumer. They can get access to a realtor. They can get access to a mortgage person. They get a tax return done. They can get a coffee from Starbucks. They get lots of things. Most business models are set up to handle that group of people. Our model, it's not. That's where we come in. That's why we call ourselves the Uber to financial services. We are disrupting that old broken model and also teaching people that money's blowing out of their lives. Everyone's got a $5, $10, $15, $20 a day habit. In our book, Couples Money, I talked about the 15, 20 bucks I blew every day for 5 years at the Quiznos at 17th and Stout. That is no longer there. You know why it's no longer there? Because I'm no longer there. When I walked out, that thing went down south. But I didn't understand that I had the mentality of the masses of, well, once something big happens to me, then I'm going to get my act together. Versus small things cared for. And when I sat down and I was like, okay, I'm blowing 10 or 15 bucks a day, I found a financial calculator. If I would have invested that over 5 years, the compounding, because it's not the money you blow, it's what it would have done. It's the compounding of the money. Literally $600,000 over a 30-year period if I would have invested the 15 bucks. And T. Harv Eker's book, Secrets of a Millionaire Mind, said, hey, until you start managing the money that you have now well, you won't see any more money. I read that quote 15, 20 times. It hit me one day. Small things cared for always lead to big results. And that was kind of the shift for us. But the industry's not going to sit down and talk to you about how you free that money up. We're great at that. We find that money. Financial literacy being the #1 economic crisis in the United States, in America. Now, our book, I'm going to talk about this book, How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker, that my business partners wrote. #1 selling book of all of 2020, of all of 2021. If you do not have a copy of this book, whoever invited you will give you one complimentary. It's 17 bucks on Amazon. We just ask that you actually read it. And the feedback we get, because it's got pictures and characters and colors written in 5th grade English, that people can get through in an hour, hour and a half, and they learn more about how money works reading this book than they have in their entire life. So our goal is to get hundreds of millions of these books out. And my partners have done 150 media appearances in the last 18 months related to that book. If you know anything about that space, that is miraculous, because they know people actually need this. So this book got published in November of 19, pre-pandemic. They made this bold statement. I read that. Is it really the #1 economic problem? And then what happened with the pandemic? Pandemic showed up and I was like, oh my Lord, they're totally spot on. It is the #1 problem. I mean, literally, people the average small business owner had 2 weeks worth of reserves. That's it. People were waiting for a $1,200 stimulus check. Unbelievable financial literacy ripped through our country. And people can't cover, right? An emergency, they can't, student debt. If you've got anyone that has student debt, follow back up with whoever invited you. We got great solutions there. It's a $1.8 trillion issue. If you get a $9,000 credit card, you're going to pay 4 times in interest over 30 years if you don't get that handled. 33% of Americans have absolutely nothing. And so this book came out. Tom Matthews, founder of WealthWave, been in the industry for 38 years. He said, we're not financial advisors, we're financial educators. We need to write a book that speaks to the masses. So he brought on board a guy named Steve Siebold. So if you Google Steve Siebold, wrote a book called How Rich People Think. Game-changing book. Changed my whole mentality, poverty mentality was planted into me as a kid. Transformed my life. Steve Siebold has the longest running study of self-made millionaires and billionaires in the United States. He wrote a book called The 177 Mental Toughness Secrets of the World Class. Absolute mandatory reading. If you got kids, get that book in their hands. He tells you how world-class people actually think. Powerful. Your life doesn't change until you think differently. And then he did a 6-month research project on our firm. Steve did. He was a consultant. And he interviewed 30 leaders in the company. I was fortunate to be the first one that was interviewed in the book. And he did this research project. And he's like, this is such an incredible company. I'm joining the mission. He came on board with us. Unbelievable. Multi-deca millionaire. Crazy successful. Clients, Caterpillar, Toyota, Johnson & Johnson. Guy's a rock star. He didn't need to do this. He's like, no, I'm all about the mission. These guys got together and wrote this book. Totally awesome. So get your hands on it. Anyone you know that needs one, we'll get it to them. So big opportunity as it relates to speaking to those who are looking for an entrepreneurial business, whether we're the fit or not. Why somebody would want to take a look at us is because of this. Our niche is the other 96%. And you see it, baby boomers. Didn't save enough, way behind. Corporate America is kicking them to the curb. They don't dig them. We love them. This can be their encore career. They got to play financial catch up. Xers, that's me. See my buddies right now. Downsized, laid off, super talented, no control over their life, no control of what's going on. So grateful I chose to be an entrepreneur over 20 years ago. They're disillusioned with the model. It's not working. They're behind. They haven't saved enough. And then the millennials have watched what's happened. And they're like, we don't trust anything. We don't trust the industry. We don't trust the system. We don't trust the government. Where do we go? And we speak to all these people, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of people looking for an answer. And the answer is you got to become your own business. I think this is the greatest market ever. Average age of someone in my industry is 58. It's not that 58 is old. It's just 20 years ago, it's 38. It's the same people. It's old white guys like me. That's it. It's boring. Our average age is 38, but we have 80-year-olds. We have 18-year-olds. We have the highest percentage of female advisors in the industry. What is it? 2 to 1, 3 to 1, tends to something like that. Like we smoked that, like we've won that every year for the last 7 years. Melting pot, massively diversified. It's super cool. We're the new face to financial services. And this is one thing that keeps me in the game, is understanding that people have a lot of fear. In fact, 63% of Americans are more afraid of outliving their money versus dying. Did you hear that? They're more afraid of outliving their money over dying. What they should be afraid of is inflation and what it's going to do to them. And so what we do, people are like, hey, Chris, what do you do? We do extreme financial makeovers. You guys like extreme makeover shows? Before and after? We have thousands of makeover stories. I only have time for one. And it's one of my favorite ones. It's my client, Tanya. So Tanya came to me, it's been a while, 2003. CPA, certified management accountant. Her IQ's up here, mine's about here. To say I'm intimidated by this woman is an understatement. She gets referred to me. She says, you're my guy. You're going to get me retired by 2011. In 10 years. You're going to get me retired by 2011. You're my guy. And I'm like trying to talk her out of hiring me. Because if I screw it up, she's going to beat me up. She's probably going to beat me up. And so I'm like, hey, you know, Susie Orman, go buy her book. She's smart. You can just follow it. There's this Kramer guy that rolls up his sleeves and tells you what stocks to buy. Just go that route. She said, Chris, I love you so much. But here's what you need to understand. You need to understand this. When emotion goes up, intelligence goes down. You ever heard that before? When emotion goes up, intelligence goes down. Who's ever been in a fight with their spouse, significant other, boyfriend, girlfriend? Oh, you guys are all perfect. You guys, I got all the money in the world. I'm not even sure why I'm here. I just came here for the lunch and I got perfect relationships. Okay, I got a pretty good relationship. But every once in a while, my wife says something. You know my wife is, right? My wife says something. She's tough. She's about 5 foot and nothing, and everyone here is scared of her. It's unbelievable. Everyone's scared. Halima, what's the military term? You just shoot her? What? I would just shoot her in the face. You just shoot her. There'd be no wrestling going on. So you just shoot her on sight. Anyway, So I'll say something, the words, have you ever had words fly out of your mouth? And as they're flying out of your mouth, you're going, no, Fredo. Too late. Hit her ears. Hurricane, Marlo, ugly sight. And I think I'm pretty emotionally intelligent, but I have done that more times than I ever cared to admit in my life.
And he's still alive.
I'm still alive, barely. I just get an allowance now. I get a bed, I get allowance, and some food. My client taught me one of the most valuable lessons ever. She's like, Chris, that's how people are with their money. You need to understand, like, your value is you're not them. You're independent. We get emotional. And she's like, I get emotional. I do stupid things with my money. So people are like, so what's the value you guys create? I'm like, we help you avoid, amongst other things, we help you avoid making the big mistake that you'll never recover from. And she said, I need you. I need an outside set of eyes. And so we started working together, and we started working, on how she thinks and how she does things. Because I think, what we do is there's a golf club involved and there's a golf swing involved. And you need, the golf swing is the mentality, the golf club's the club. Most guys in our industry sell clubs. They don't deal with the mentality of it. Former broke CPA. I had a mentality problem. I had a lot of clubs, but my mentality wasn't where it needed to be. So we worked together. She avoided the downturn of 2008. Long and short of it, 2011, she retires. She's like, can I retire? I said, absolutely. I said, by the way, Tanya, you will never, ever, 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 ever run out of money. Ever. She's like, I got peace of mind. I saw her about 6 months ago. She's got more money today than when we started with, and she'll never run out of money. And pre-pandemic, she was doing her 2 or 3 cruises a year. It was pretty cool when you wake up in the morning, and sometimes she'd do like 21-day cruises, and she would literally send me a 5-page email of everything that she did that day on the cruise. She wanted me to know. I thought that was awesome. And that is what keeps us in this game. That we changed her life. And we created peace of mind. She's like, do you know what peace of mind around money is like? I'm like, absolutely. This business has created that. And literally, that's what I want for millions and millions and millions and millions of people, is to have that. And this is one way to do it, is we can teach you that, or you get into business with us. Because this is what people are experiencing. As you start flying again, make sure before you get on the plane at DIA, the plane's got 2 wings. If it's only got 1, don't board. But people are trying to fly through retirement with 1 wing. Guys, Social Security and your 401k, not going to get it done. This is back on you. And in my opinion, this is the case of you have to make money other places. You got to be an entrepreneur. If you Google the term gig economy, it's all Uber, Airbnb, DoorDash, you name it. They're gigs. It's why they're successful. We're a professional services version of that gig. And it's why we're, as Tinza said, we are the only growth story happening in financial services, because 40% of my group is full-time, 60% is part-time. A chunk of the part-timers never want to go full-time. They don't have to, because we look like a real estate operation brought to financial services. So this is what we do, complementary, sit down with people. This is the client side. We're totally independent. We work with every financial services company on the planet. That's important. So we don't have just a product that we're trying to, hey, you need to buy this. It is about figuring out what you want. It's much like taking doing an intake form with a doctor, and then the doctor figures out what fits you. Number 1 is we want to get you a financial education. Get a book in your hand. Teach you some concepts. Actually, we're not trying to make you a PhD of money, but we're trying to help you be aware so you can make great decisions with your money. Then we look at proper protection, different types of life insurance, all different types. Your biggest asset's not your home or your car. Your biggest asset is your ability to make money. Has to be protected. In Europe, it's required. United States, it's not. The biggest market we're dealing with right now, long-term care insurance. Unbelievable. If anyone's ever had to deal with assisted living and parents and the expense of that, it's totally nasty. And I didn't really get it. I just turned 50 a few weeks ago. I was 42. Yeah, I made it. I feel better at 50 than I did at 40. By the way, thanks to the company, my mentors here, you get younger. You actually do, like fine wine, if you hang out with us. But I was 42 and I was like, long-term care, what? And then the teacher looked at me, he could see my skepticism. He said, hey, so if you're over the age of 55, 8% of people actually have assisted living coverage, long-term care coverage. If you go over the age of 65, there's a 75% chance you're going to need it. You guys hear me? 75% chance that you're going to need it. If you knew there's a 75% chance your house was going to burn down, what would you do? You'd probably cover it. And then he's like, can you imagine saving your whole life and then giving all your money back in 2 to 3 years because you're in assisted living? I was like, heck no. I ran home, got my first policy. Me and my wife have several of them. Huge, huge, huge hole. Don't let that just linger. Savings, reserves, debt reduction, student debt. Once again, if you hear student debt, refer to whoever invited you. Cash flow. Find the money that's blown out of your life. Find the money that's leaking out of your life. As that one slide said, people blow $5,000 a year unknowingly. We find that redirected, showing you a way to become an entrepreneur. Once again, whether that's with us or we coach you, as I have, on how to become an entrepreneur. With my client, we had this conversation a year ago. He's like, I'm ready to fire my boss. Let's meet. Super cool. I'm going to get with him on September 30. And he wants to go over his whole plan. This is his other business. He didn't choose us. He looked at us. We weren't a fit. Then I still coached him. At the end of the day, it's about helping that family, whether we're the fit or not. So that's awesome. I want to launch millions and millions and millions of entrepreneurs. It's my goal. Build wealth. How much you're going to need, how much you need to put away. How do you protect it? We'll talk about some of those things. Protecting wealth, wills and trust. This is what we do. Highly recommend you sit down with whoever invited you. Go through that. Understand taxes. Who likes to pay taxes? Chris. Kick Chris out. Okay. Chris does not like to pay taxes. Who hasn't paid their taxes? No one's going to raise their hand. Okay. All right. This is getting recorded on Zoom. So we're going to teach you how you need to pay taxes. You're either going to learn how we teach you how to pay taxes, or the government's going to teach you their way. And so the analogy is, if you're investing in a farm and you invest $10,000 in seed, would you rather pay taxes on the seed that goes into the ground or what it grows into? You would much rather pay taxes on this little bit of seed versus what it grows into. What most people do is they are deferring, not paying the taxes on the seed, but they're going to pay on the harvest. And there's a lot of things we haven't paid for. And now add the pandemic and the trillions of dollars on that. So what's happening with 401k plans and IRAs and all that, we manage all that stuff. But most people have a ticking time bomb in their retirement account. And they're going to end up paying way more in taxes by not having it handled on the front end. Once again, this is just simple stuff, but people are so busy, they have no time to sit down and even analyze this. Because you got tax now, tax later, you got tax never. This is the big hole in people's financial picture. So we sit down, lay it all out, and then we can maneuver money around to make sure that they can pick up this category so that they're more efficient. They're not giving more money to the government than they need to in the future because they're just spending wildly and crazily, right? So some of the strategies that we work on, I'm going to give you one idea, and it's called a Swiss Army knife. So does anybody camp? Like to camp. So what you don't do, camping for Marlo is, what do they say, Holiday Inn with the window open. Anyway, so she's not on, is she? Carl, she's not back there. Is she on Zoom? Okay, good. Thank you. Anyway, so what you don't do is you don't go into the kitchen and grab a knife and grab a fork and grab a corkscrew, grab a spoon, throw 10 pounds worth of stuff in your pocket and run out. What do? You grab a tool, a Swiss Army knife. One tool accomplishes what? Many jobs. So what we have is the Swiss Army knife of financial tools. And it does these things. This is the number one way that my wife and I personally invest. We have several of these Swiss Army knives. My kids have them, but it has zero market risk, cranked out a good 8-9% strong, safe, secure return. Pandemic's happening, markets are dropping 30% over hours. Our stuff's secure. We can add the long-term care tool to it, which is amazing, and get people protected. And then we have all these tax deferred features in here, which is cool. So if you've never heard of the Swiss Army knife, follow up with whoever invited you. Say, hey, I want to know more about that. We got a quick little 3-minute video that you can watch, that you can go through it. And the way the internal investment component works is, we call this the tic-tac-toe of investing. So on the left side, you have what's called fixed accounts. The right side is stock market, mutual funds, those things. And they both have positives. On the left, total protection. But the upside's limited. And it's worse than ever. I just saw some small account. We got a little money in because we would never put much money in there. But our payout just went from 0.3 to 0.1. It just dropped it. Crazy. Can't keep up with a 10% inflation rate doing that. The right side is rocking. Unlimited upside potential, which has been cool over the last 18 months. However, we're due for one of these losses. So Warren Buffett, 2 rules of investing. Rule number 1, don't lose money. Rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1. Because if you lose 50% of your money, you got to make what? You got to make 100% to get back to where you started. So what our Swiss Army knife solution does is it combines the best of both worlds for people that want this, but the benefit of that. And we call that an index account. And that's what we do. So that's part of, I call it the golf clubs of investing. This is your putter. The most important club in your bag is your putter. Most boring, but you sure like it when it's working. If you golf, if you don't, then just tune me out. Anyway, so second thing we do here, that was all about how money works. That was number 1 thing we do. Number 2 is moving people from E to E, small E employee to being an entrepreneur. As I said, I don't even think it's optional anymore. When I got going as an entrepreneur 22 years ago, being an entrepreneur was the crazy thing. Being an employee was the safe thing. In my opinion, the pandemic taught me that is totally flipped. Being an employee is almost one of the most unsafe things you can do. You got to keep your job. We'll talk about how you transition that. It's not a big decision. You got to transition that correctly. So what we do, we help people, 5 concerns for people when they start a business. Number 1 is investment. That was my experience when I was looking. $250,000 here, $500,000 capital I didn't have. McDonald's, $2 million to invest. The average McDonald's net profit is 150 grand a year. Net profit, 2 million divided by 150,000, your break even is 13.3 years. Is that insane? Us, $300 up to 1,000, depending on what licensing you want to take on. That break even, getting in the black, took me about a month. Super powerful. Time. A lot of people are like, well, I don't have time. Usually that's a thing for, I'm afraid it won't work. So we kind of take this one off the table. You got the time. In fact, if you don't think you have the time, I'll send you a 9-minute video that my friend JD Phillips taught about time. We have 168 hours a week. You guys know that? 24 times 7. He does this breakdown of us sleeping 8 or 9 hours a day, plenty of time to screw off. Us taking 3 hours a day to eat. That blew me away. So 3 hours a day, he's got everything calculated in there. There's no way it takes me 3 hours. I watch some of you guys eat, no way you spend 3 hours. With all that, everything accounted for. Family time, social time, sleep, eat, you name it, work out. He found 144 hours. We have 168. There's 24 hours that we have no idea what happens. And so when people are like, I don't have the time to do that, then I smack them in a loving way. Right, Helena? It's a loving smack. All right. But you got the time. But the key is 6 to 10 hours a week, build some nooks and crannies of your life. That's what I do. Okay. Knowledge. You don't need a background. I'll prove that here in a second. We are remote with training, Zoom, unbelievable what we have. We will teach you the need. I think I painted that in your brain. Hundreds and hundreds of millions of people need our help. That's what you want. You want to work in a market like that. And I call it risk off. It was risk off for me. Invest a few $100, part-time, don't need to quit my job. Not a big deal. And I brought this back in the presentation because this is really what got me on board many years ago. Because Robert Kiyosaki wrote this book in early 2000s, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This was his shot at teaching Americans that what we're teaching you. And 350 million people fall into one of these four quadrants. And in the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he had a rich dad and he had a poor dad. Okay, poor dad, doctor of education, superintendent of the Hawaii school system, super smart, all these doctorates, died broke. Told Robert what? What my parents told me. Go be an employee, everything's going to turn out okay. Well, then you get sick of working for people. Then you go become self-employed. Self-employed, you go from paycheck to paycheck, transaction to transaction. Cut a deal, get a check, cut a deal, get a check, cut a deal, get a check. 96% of Americans live on that side. Cannot get financially independent over there. His rich dad was his best friend's dad. Rich dad was a high school dropout, became the wealthiest man in Hawaii. He sat down and drew this picture for Robert when he was small. He's like, your dad's a great guy. Listen to him, but don't listen to him on this one. You must become a business owner. The definition of a business owner is you have a system. You hire people, people run a system, system runs a business. Why do people spend $2 million on McDonald's? Because the system's so good that it creates success. It just takes a long time. We are systematic driven with what we do. And the definition is you could leave your business for 6 months or more and the money just keeps flowing. Doesn't require you to trade time. And then you invest the excess cash flow from your business in long-term savings, whatever that looks like for you, plans with us, real estate, other businesses, you name it. And you're on the financial freedom side. Guys, 350 million people have no idea. And they're trying to get ahead by working harder. It doesn't work. So our whole goal, hey, what do? It's in a picture. We want to move you from here to here. How do you do it? Well, if you look at our business, employee, keep your job. Okay, we want you to keep your job and learn the business with us. Learn the skills with us. Give 6 to 10 hours a week. Then you'll drop into what's called self-employed land, where you've replaced your income. You go full time. Took me about a year to do that. You don't have to do that. You just say, hey, I just want to make excess money and invest. Great. Then you move into system. So you're a real estate agent, so to speak, analogy, you become a real estate broker. You own a system, you train people, and then invest. And so this is what we do. It is a picture. I love it because this is a picture that shows people how to get from the left side to the right side. And we build it on strong core values. This is what we're all about. This is how we were successful during the pandemic. Personal growth and development, we're masters at that. We'll grow you whether you like it or not. That right, Deb? We'll grow you whether you like it or not. Because we know your ideal life is out here. And we're going to help you grow it. Family. You build this business with your family first. I love that. And I could go story to story to story to story. Personally, everybody around, you guys have all witnessed it. Stuff goes down. We're there for people. We're a big family. Strength of character, doing the right thing. That's the cool thing about our business. If you do the right thing, you'll do well financially. The guys that take the shortcuts, weed themselves out. They're not successful. Strength of character. In a team, it's tough to get financially independent on your own. It takes a team. It'll never happen. And then recognizing, encouraging, praising, recognizing people need that so badly. So badly. Are we the masters at that? We're the masters at encouragement, praise, and recognition. So we're good at it. And then this is our group, man. No experience required. Different backgrounds. People are like, well, I don't have a background in it. Well, who cares? I didn't either. Most people don't. Former basketball coach, CPA, health supplement owner, realtor, cop, college dropout, cook, landscape architect, reads a, what was it, rocket scientist, whatever he was. He just told stuff. Actually, a bookkeeper, CPA. My wife used to cut hair. This is, guys know football. This is Hall of Famer Marshall Falk. Did a 6-month research project on us, basically, and decided to come full on. Gave up all his broadcasting career to do this full time. Total rock star. but he's one of my favorite people, and that's Steve Siebel, who did the research project. So we've got some pretty credible, amazing people that kicked the tires on this and said, yep, I'm moving forward. I'm all in on this. So good stuff. Compensation. Let me just go through a simple example. When you help a family, on average, cash flow is about $1,000. So you help 4 families a month, you can do some cool things. So we have agents and we have brokers, just like in real estate, agents and brokers. So what I loved about this was when I sat down, the guy that recruited me, I said, hey, how do I become a broker? How do I own my own business? And he showed me a simple picture. You do this, you get promoted. I was like, what? There's no political crap? Has anybody ever been involved in political garbage? I'm like, there's no political garbage going on, or no. You do, you get. That's why we attract. That's why I have a high percentage of females. Like males don't make us. They don't. There's not a separate pay scale for males here, or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's unbelievable. Totally. So I call it objective promotion standards. I was like, I'm all in. You guys can't stop me? No, we can't stop you. All right, I'm in. But as you move up and you start growing your business, you start growing your team, some cool things will start happening for you guys. And we have the highest percentage of 6-figure earners in the industry, almost by a mile. Unbelievable. Why? There's no BS. And we're designed to coach, teach, train, and mentor you. We got no incentive to give you bad advice to lead you down the wrong path. Super powerful. And that's why I've been here for 22 years and will continue to be here because it is very powerful. So options as I'm wrapping up, we'll be done on time. One is client. So you want to do 7 money milestones. You guys have some feedback forms. I got feedback forms behind your thing. You got some feedback forms. So we're gonna have you we kind of go through this real quick and then we'll be wrapped up. So we got feedback forms. You guys are going to go through this. One is client. So follow up with whoever provides you, go through those 7 money milestones. The next is what we call part-time. So if you want to interview for a position with us, do that in the next 1 to 2 days. And then full-time is something that happens from part-time to full-time. Okay, we want people to get skilled and then go full-time. So here's who we're looking for real quick. One is we want people who have a heart for helping people. Does that make sense? Some people have come on board and they said they want to help people, but they were really all about the money. They don't make it here long-term. So you got to want to help people. Second thing is you got to want to grow and develop. You have to. You got to want to get better. You got to want to get coached. And the third thing is you got to be coachable. Has anybody ever worked with uncoachable people? Fun, not fun. Total waste of time. And we have no incentive to give you bad advice. So you might as well be coachable, which has been one of my blessings. I've always been really coachable to people that were more successful. They're getting the results I want. I'm going to listen to them. So, but if you want to help people, you want to grow and develop, and you're coachable, best business model on the planet.
Yep,
Okay?
that's right.
Make sure you get that. And then just questions to be thinking about as you're thinking this through, because I got great questions back in the day. The questions that, what happened? Did your battery die again?
It looks like.
Oh my God. All right, well, that's fine. That's fine. We didn't need it. We didn't need it. Are they still online?
That's not.
All right. Carl, this is like 18 months ago when your battery died and we lost like 400 people online. It wasn't 400, maybe it was 4. But just good question. So one is this thing called your ideal life. Go figure that out if I never see you again. Actually schedule time and sit down and say, you know what? What do I really want my life to look like? The 96% never do that because they're too busy. And I'll get to it. And the question is, do you have the career with the horsepower that's going to get your ideal life? And if it's no, my next question would be, does that bother you? And if it doesn't bother you, I love you, we got nothing to talk about from a business standpoint. You can sit down and go do the client stuff with us. But if that doesn't bother you, then you're probably not going to have the fuel to get off the ground and get a business going with us. If that bugs you like it did me, set a follow-up time. Next is, what intrigued you about this? Because you're gonna get asked that question in your interview. What intrigued you? I had a big list. The next question is, why would you do it? I had a big list of why I would do it. And then the last question I was asked was, could you think of a reason why you wouldn't want to do it? And outside of it being outside my comfort zone, I couldn't really find a reason. And I knew that in the back of my mind, if I didn't give it a shot, it would always be back there. Like, what if I didn't give that a chance? And it would drive me nuts. And I knew I wouldn't know if it worked unless I actually gave it a shot. So that was easy. And then the turning point really that got me open was really thinking about ideal life and going, do I want to make a change to get the ideal life that I want? Or am I going to settle? My favorite quote, Martin Luther King: most men and women die at 18. We just wait till they're 65, 75, 85 to bury them. What was he talking about? Settling, giving up, settling for comfort. And then right at that time, total hand of God. I read an article about the USA Today. They interviewed 10,000 people over the age of 80. And they said, if you had to do it all over again, what would you have done different? They're like, I would have started that business. I would have got outside my comfort zone. I would have done this. I would have done that. They all had regrets. They all had regrets. And I'm like, I will never have regrets. And I'm so glad I came on board, took small steps, and this business has the horsepower for you guys to get your goals and dreams and aspirations handled. So anyway, follow up with that I invited you. It turns out, hopefully I get to welcome you guys to our mission of stamping out and eradicating financial literacy in the United States. So thanks for your time.